Picture the first human who watched a calf drink from a cow. White liquid. Warm. Pulled from inside a living animal. The smell is grassy and strange. Every instinct you have says food comes from plants, from meat, from things you killed or gathered, not from another creature's body while it's still standing there. And somehow, someone thought, I'll have some of that. That image is how most of us imagine the discovery of milk. A single moment of genius. A farmer in the Neolithic dawn, kneeling beside a goat, history changing in one sip. But that's not quite right. And honestly, what comes next is even stranger. Because the real story isn't about who first drank milk. It's about who first figured out how not to die from it. Let's start with a fact that ruins the fairy tale. For most of human history, if you were an adult and you drank fresh milk, your body would punish you for it. Not mildly. Not an upset stomach you could shrug off. During the last ice age, milk was essentially a toxin to grown humans. Babies produce an enzyme called lactase that breaks down lactose, the main sugar in milk. After weaning, that production switches off in most people. The milk doesn't digest. It ferments in your gut. Cramps, bloating, diarrhea. In a world without bathrooms or pharmacies, that could kill you slowly through dehydration. Most of the world still lives that way. Roughly 2/3 of adults on Earth are lactose intolerant today. Walk through Tokyo or Bangkok or Lagos, and the default biology is the ancient one. Milk as a daily drink is not human nature. It is a regional accident that went global through trade, empire, and marketing. So the first person who drank a full cup of raw cow's milk as an adult wasn't brilliant. They were miserable. And yet, dairy is everywhere now. Yogurt in your fridge, cheese on your pizza, butter in your pan, cultures built around milk. How did that happen if the biology said no? The answer was hiding in a perforated piece of pottery. Around 6,800 years before the Common Era, in what is now central Poland, someone made a clay pot with dozens of small holes punched through the sides. Archaeologists have found these vessels at early farming sites. They look like colanders, like something you'd strain pasta through if pasta existed yet. For years, researchers argued about what they were for. Decoration? Ritual? Some lost kitchen habit nobody could name? Then a chemist named Melanie Roffit-Salk at the University of Bristol ran the pottery for milk fat residues, and the answer was unmistakable. These were cheese strainers, not cups for drinking milk, tools for separating solid curds from liquid whey. The curds held the fat and protein. The whey carried most of the lactose. Drain the whey, and what remains is cheese. Ferment it further into yogurt or aged cheese, and the lactose drops even more. Adults who couldn't touch fresh milk could eat cheese. Hard-aged cheese can drop lactose to nearly zero. Yogurt and kefir let bacteria eat the sugar before you do. Butter is mostly fat. Ghee removes the milk solids entirely. Each technique is a workaround for the same problem your great-great-grandmother's gut would have recognized instantly. That changes everything. Because it means humans were processing dairy thousands of years before the genetic mutation that lets most Europeans drink milk as adults. Culture came first, biology followed. We didn't evolve to drink milk. We evolved to tolerate milk because we had already built a civilization that refused to give it up. But here's what's fascinating. The cheese strainers are not the beginning. They're just the first time the evidence becomes impossible to argue with. Richard Evershed, another Bristol biogeochemist, spent years analyzing ancient pottery from the Fertile Crescent. Around 9,000 years ago, near the Sea of Marmara in modern Turkey, he found milk fats embedded in the walls of clay vessels. Some of the oldest pots, which means people were storing and working with milk before the invention of pottery as we know it. Evershed's team concluded they were probably milking animals even earlier. The pots are just the receipt. Goats, sheep, cattle. The technology of dairying spread with herding, village by village, across Anatolia into Europe. Not because everyone could drink it, because everyone could use it. Cheese doesn't spoil as fast as milk. It travels. It stores through winter. It turns a perishable liquid into calories you can stack in a cellar. And somewhere along those routes, another accident entered the story. Nomads carried milk in bags made from animal stomachs. The lining contained rennet, enzymes that curdle milk. Warmth and motion turned the contents to cheese before anyone reached camp. No recipe, no intention, just biology doing chemistry on the move. You didn't need to understand enzymes to exploit them. You only needed to notice that the stuff in the bag tasted fine and didn't make you sick. Herders on the Eurasian steppe still ferment mare's milk into kumis, slightly alcoholic, easier to digest. Himalayan communities churn yak milk into butter tea. Pastoralists in the Sahel make yogurt daily because the climate demands it. None of these traditions required a genetics lab. They required repetition. Someone got sick from the liquid. Someone didn't from the solid. The recipe stuck. That pattern repeats through the entire history of dairy. Observation before theory. Survival before science. Still, skeptics asked for harder proof than pottery grease. In 2019, researchers at the University of York scraped dental plaque from Neolithic skeletons in Britain. 3 skeletons, 6,000 years old. Trapped in the hardened tartar were milk proteins from cows, sheep, and goats. Direct evidence that these people consumed dairy. Not speculation. Not residue on a pot someone else might have touched. The food was in their mouths. And the proteins pointed to processed dairy, not glasses of fresh milk. The kind of consumption that fits a lactose-intolerant population doing what worked. Sarah Tishkoff, a geneticist at the University of Pennsylvania, has spent decades mapping lactase persistence, the ability to digest lactose into adulthood. Her work shows the famous European mutation spread over thousands of years, region by region, long after dairying began. In some populations, it never became common at all. In East Asia, most adults remain lactose intolerant today. In parts of Africa, different mutations arose independently in pastoral groups who relied on cattle. Milk drinking is not universal. It is not the default human diet. It is a patchwork of culture, climate, and genes stitched together over millennia. When famine hit early farming villages, stored cheese and dried curds could mean the difference between surviving winter and burying children. Milk animals convert grass. Humans cannot eat into fat and protein humans can. That economic logic pushed dairying forward even when biology pushed back. Evolution doesn't reward what feels natural. It rewards what keeps you alive long enough to try again next season. Walk into a Turkish breakfast today, and you may find beyaz peynir, a white-brined cheese. Shepherds in the region have eaten something like it for 8,000 years. Same idea. Same transformation. A food that predates the genes that make fresh milk easy. We tell the story as if biology led and culture followed. The archaeology says the opposite. And the symbolism may have mattered as much as the calories. In lactose-intolerant societies, turning milk into cheese or yogurt was not a minor kitchen trick. It was alchemy. Liquid from a living animal transformed into something storable, shareable, sacred. Some researchers think the difficulty of the transformation gave dairy a ritual weight that fresh milk never could have carried. Milk as symbol. Cheese as survival. So what about the calf at the beginning? The person who saw an udder and reached for it? They probably existed. Children can drink milk. Herders would have seen foals and calves nursing. The connection is obvious once you've watched it daily. But the adult diet wasn't milk. It was everything you could make milk become. Yogurt, cheese, butter. Fermented mare's milk on the steppe. Ghee in South Asia. Each culture found its own way to lower the lactose, to unlock the fat, to steal nutrition from another species without paying the biological price. The discovery wasn't milk. It was the sieve, the bag, the cellar, the patience to let curds separate and age. Every slice of cheese in your refrigerator is a compressed history of people who could not digest what you pour on your cereal, who solved that problem with holes punched in clay, with stomach linings and salt, with time and fermentation and trial and error across centuries we will never name. You live in a world where roughly 1/3 of adults can drink fresh milk comfortably. The rest of us are descendants of people who ate the workaround. The next time you open the fridge, you are not looking at nature's perfect drink. You are looking at one of the oldest engineering projects in human history, a way to make poison into food. Somewhere in Poland, 6,800 years ago, a potter punched holes in wet clay and changed what your species could eat. Somewhere in Turkey, a herder noticed fat floating in a cooking pot and kept the experiment alive. Somewhere in Britain, a farmer ate cheese with enough regularity that the evidence stayed in their teeth until a scientist scraped it out 6 millennia later. No single genius, no light bulb, just generations of people paying attention to what made them sick and what didn't. The calf at the udder was never the whole story. It was the sieve. And we are still figuring out the receipt.